Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Belying expectations of a better performance by the DMK-led front in Tamil Nadu, according to opinion polls, exit polls and other received punditry, the ADMK-led front actually managed a thumping victory, garnering more than 200 seats out of 234 in the Tamil Nadu Assembly in the recently concluded Assembly elections. We have with us Shankar Raghuraman, Associate Editor of the Times of India, to discuss the results. Shankar, so it all boiled down to alliance building. The roping in of the DMDK, Vijaykanth-led DMDK, actually strengthened the ADMK alliance so well that it was able to overcome the DMK, right?
Well, yes, obviously the arithmetic of the alliance was a very crucial factor. But the arithmetic doesn't work in a vacuum. There is a context in which that arithmetic works. So, for example, let us assume hypothetically that Vijaykanth, instead of aligning with Jayalalitha, had tried to align with the DMK. I doubt whether he would have been able to transfer as much of his votes to the DMK alliance as he was able to translate to the ADMK alliance. That's where the chemistry of the process comes into play. I mean, there was clearly a feeling against the DMK which helped this arithmetic to work.
So this feeling against the DMK was basically because of which factors? Was it nepotism? Was it the general governance in the DMK regime? What was exactly the factor that resulted in DMK's?
See, I would say three factors contributed significantly to the feeling against the DMK-led alliance. One was corruption, but you might say that corruption cannot become an issue in an election between DMK and ADMK, because after all ADMK itself is also not perceived as a very clean party. However, I think the clever thing that Jayalalitha did was to pitch it as, why should only one family in Tamil Nadu garner all the benefits of development. So, she gave the issue of corruption a very specific focus, focusing it on the family, and I think that helped to crystallize opinion on the issue of corruption. But more than corruption, I think there were two other issues which made a very big difference. One was the issue of price rise. Now, price rise is an issue which has been agitating people all over the country, but in many states you might have a state government run by a non-UPA party, while the center is being run by the UPA. So, the issue of who is to blame somewhat dissipates the anger against
the ruling coalition.
Yes, I mean there is anger directed at both sides in the battle, right, on the issue of price rise. In the case of Tamil Nadu, because the UPA was ruling both at the center and the state, it could only have been directed against one formation. So, I think price rise was an important issue. A third issue was the Sri Lankan issue. Particularly in the coastal areas, I think there was a feeling that the manner in which both the center and state had dealt with the issue of Indian fishermen being held by the Sri Lankans, coming on close on the heels of what is widely perceived as a massacre of innocent Tamils during the operations against TLTT in Jaffna. All of that also, I think, played a big role.
Having said that, again from received punditry, we heard that the DMK largesse in the form of its welfare programs when in power, and also this caste distribution, the caste distribution that it managed during the elections, which was far more evident in the 2009 Lok Sabha elections, but apparently from grassroots you will get to know that they have managed to distribute a substantial amount of cash during the 2011 elections itself. So, the opinion was that this would somehow manage to stem the tide, but clearly that did not happen.
To be honest, when I went to Tamil Nadu shortly before the elections, and then once again shortly after the elections, everybody I spoke to was, when you ask them what is likely to happen, or what do you think has happened, the common answer was ADMK should win, but, and the but was always this issue of cash distribution. I don't think it is possible to actually buy out an electorate. The issue of largesse from the government is a separate issue. Yes, there I think it is undoubtedly true that some of the welfare schemes, for instance the rural ambulances, the health insurance schemes, These things definitely had a positive impact. They have, I think, helped the DMK to stem the tide somewhat. But cash for votes doesn't work. I don't think it works. Particularly, it might work in a situation where there is no strong feeling for or against any of the contending parties. Where in a normal kind of election, it's possible that some votes do get swayed by that. But where there is such a strong sentiment against the ruling coalition, I don't think it can be stopped by merely asking people, by giving them cash and saying, please vote for us. And as far as the welfare schemes are concerned, also somewhat like Kerala, in Tamil Nadu also, both parties have had a reasonably decent track record of welfare schemes.
Let's talk about the Congress. The Congress performance must be its worst ever in its electoral history in Tamil Nadu. Was it because it was being painted in the same brush as the DMK, or was it genuinely an anger against the UPS performance? So what exactly is the reason for the Congress?
To my mind, three major issues which crystallized the anger against the UPA. One of those was price rise. Clearly that is, the Congress itself is being held as accountable as, or at least as accountable as the DMK for that. The other was the issue of how the Sri Lankan Tamils have been treated. There again, the anger is as much against the centre as against the state. So it's, the third issue was corruption. Now, in corruption, clearly much of the anger in Tamil Nadu would have been against the DMK. But on the other hand, if the Congress wants to believe that it merely got collateral damage, that would be an incorrect reading of the situation, because you must remember that the 2G scam is only one of several scams. It may be the largest, but it is only one of several scams which have surfaced nationally during this period. You have had the Commonwealth Games scams, you had the Adarsh scam in Bombay, and so the general perception of the UPA running a very corrupt regime was, I think, very much part of the.
Also, the Congress never played an oppositional role per se as a regional force in Tamil Nadu, right?
Correct.
So that actually also resulted in.
Well, to be honest, Congress as a party has hardly done anything in Tamil Nadu. Whether oppositional, or it doesn't have a role in the running of the government in Tamil Nadu, though it is a alliance partner. It does not have a meaningful role as a constructive opposition. So really, as a party, I mean, if you were a Tamil Nadu voter, what does the Congress in Tamil Nadu stand for? And that is one factor. The other was very poor choice of candidates. Also, Tamil Nadu Congress today really has no mass leaders of any stature. So all of those factors, I think, have contributed to its worst ever performance.
The ADMK now is in a very strong wicket in Tamil Nadu. Is the Congress now trying to rope in the ADMK instead of the DMK into supporting the ruling coalition?
See, my feeling would be that that would have been a much more likely scenario if the ADMK coalition had won, with the ADMK itself not having a majority in the assembly. Because you look at it from the Congress's point of view, right now the situation is that the DMK has 18 MPs in the Lok Sabha. It has no state government. So the DMK as an ally will be a completely loyal ally at this point in time. It has no bargaining position at all vis-a-vis the Congress. Now, if they were to get rid of the DMK and bring in the ADMK, their problem would be A, the number of MPs comes down drastically, it comes down to half. Instead of 18, you have 9. B, Jayalalitha is in a position where her bargaining strength will be enormous. Her state government is not dependent on the Congress in any way. So, and Jayalalitha does have a track record of being a very fickle ally. So, given all those factors, I am not so sure that the Congress would like to at this stage do business with Jayalalitha. It is possible that closer to the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, there might be a realignment of.
Coming back to Tamil Nadu again, the accusations against the DMK are not new, in the sense that the similar kind of accusations were made against the ADMK as well. So this alternating of the DMK and ADMK, Is there a possibility of a third force emerging at all? Why isn't there no fatigue against either of these ruling alliances, either of these Dravidian parties in Tamil Nadu?
I don't think it is correct to say there is no fatigue with the two of them. There is definitely a fatigue, and one of the evidences of that fatigue was in 2006 and then again in 2009, when the DMDK, that is Vijaykant's party, a completely fresh player on the scene, contested separately from either of the two alliances and got between 8 and 10% of the vote in the two elections. Now, for a party which has come into being overnight, to garner 10% of the vote is telling you something, and in a country where because of the first past the post system, there is a general belief that you should not waste your vote by giving it to somebody who is not in contention for power. For anybody to get 10% of the vote without being in either of the two alliances is an indicator of the fact that there is a desire for an alternative to these two. However, nobody seems to have the vision or the willpower to stay outside the two alliances for some length of time and build upon that strength. Even Vijaykant now has joined the ADMK alliance. So, really that is what I think has been the reason behind the third front, no third front emerging in Tamil Nadu.
The DMDK is now the opposition party, the largest opposition party. So if it plays its cards properly, there is a possibility that it could build on this momentum, the 10% vote it has received.
It could. I think DMDK would also be looking slightly ahead and looking at a scenario post Karnanidhi. There is a widespread belief that if and when Karnanidhi passes away, there will be a severe factional feud within the DMK, led by a fight between the two brothers themselves. Now, if that scenario happens, then anybody who is waiting in the wings to mop up the disillusioned DMK base stands a good chance. Now, you would have, in the normal course, you would have said Congress might have been in a position to do that, but after this showing, Congress's chances of playing that role have receded, and Vijaykant seems to be best positioned for that kind of thing. Along with the left parties.